Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Clinical Scoop. We've got Monica, Chris, we have Dr. Al. We're talking about patient recruiting in clinical research, especially when it comes to minority participation in clinical research, specifically when it comes to African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, and diversity, how to achieve more diversity in clinical research studies. Chris and I have several projects we're working on. One of them, Chris, entails 6 different protocols, 6 different indications. Can you tell us which 6 they are? And then we will all agree to pick one at random. We did not prepare for this at all. So the point of this will be not only to discuss patient, how to enroll minority participations and how to increase the minority participation in clinical research, but also we're going to analyze a few studies at random to see, okay, if we were thinking of doing this study as a site, what would we consider? Would we consider this study? How would we consider it? And then what would be some ways we can get some minority participations in these studies? So Chris, what are the 6? And then we'll discuss patient
First, I have an objection, though. I didn't volunteer for anything, but I guess I'm going to be volunteered regardless. So, okay.
Yeah, if you come on this show, we can just make people volunteer.
You're just automatically volunteered. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so the 6 indications are lupus, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, and MDD. So,
right.
which one are you doing?
Which one do you guys want? If I choose, people are gonna think I prepared, and then we're gonna do it wild, organic.
I say Alzheimer's.
Okay.
Well, I'll take schizophrenia. That's the easiest for me.
Well, I guess Dr. Al will decide which one.
Anyone you go with, guys, we can go. We can do, but I think like going for this psychiatric indication will be a little bit more difficult or challenging for us at this point. I think we should do it.
Let's do lupus. Let's do lupus.
I think that would be more appropriate because the patient can consent and everything, but the other one is like you need a consent from a durable power of attorney or from conservator or anybody else. So
Chris is saying no lupus.
Factor.
Well, I don't know what this game is we're playing, but I don't know anything about lupus. So if it's like Trivial Pursuit, I lose.
That's why I chose lupus, because I know very little about it. So
I know, but I don't think we're gonna discuss the disease. We're gonna discuss how to recruit minority to that.
A little bit, yeah.
Clinical trial.
Yeah, well, but a little bit will do.
That would be applicable to all 6 indications, most likely.
No,
whatever we discussed.
It could be, but I think there is more variable factors for the psychiatric indication where you're gonna have conservators interfere in consenting for the patient or durable power of attorney in consenting for the patient. So you don't have the patient himself doing this. So
let's do lupus. I'm on clinicaltrials.gov.
Well, believe it or not, Dr. Al, for most schizophrenia studies, they are consenting themselves. Alzheimer's, that's not the case, but schizophrenia, most studies, they are.
It depends on their condition.
Sure.
I'm not a psychiatrist, but I don't know exactly how does it go, Chris.
So I'm looking right now at the lupus. Can
you guys see my screen?
Foundation of America.
Okay.
To look at the demographics. That's lupus. Probably the first thing to do to recruit patients, I think.
So where do I go? Lupus Foundation?
Yeah, I mean the lupus demographics. That's what I look for, to know what's the age, the gender, the community that gets more affected for this, the age.
Let's see here. So I'm on Lupus Foundation. What is lupus? Diagnosis, treatment, impact on daily life. How would I find those demos? This is actually great that we can teach people how to do this.
But what I do is I put lupus and then demographics, and then we'll see what's out there.
Are you getting all this, Chris? You have to take notes on this.
I do. I have a
See?
recording. I have a recording.
So then you get all the facts and statistics, so that way we know which group is
I
more
see.
affected, what age.
Lupus Foundation of America estimates that 1.5 million Americans and at least 5 million people worldwide have a form of lupus. Lupus strikes mostly women of childbearing age. However, men, children, and teenagers develop lupus too. 90% of people living with lupus are women.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. I would have never known
Now
that.
we got that.
That's why we picked the one we don't know, Chris. There's only room to grow.
Okay.
Okay, so let's find more demographics.
Yeah, go back. Go
I
back.
want to find demographics like by race.
Yeah, so click. Oh, you did click on that link. How about
Yeah.
there was a picture?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Can you see? I don't know
Yeah,
if you
that's
can
not
see.
telling us anything.
Lupus patients of color. Let's see. Can you see this?
Yep. So
Uh,
Diagnosis and treatment. Lupus, the adventure between the lines. So, diagnose African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, and Native Americans are diagnosed with lupus 2 or 3 times more often than Caucasian. Okay, so no wonder these drug companies are interested in minority participation in this indication
that
because
affects. Yep.
that's what I
and
was
all they're
going to
getting
say
are
because,
Caucasians, more or less.
because it's the same with Alzheimer's. When I did the research for Alzheimer's, it's exactly the same situation.
Wow, okay. Okay, so
So,
now we're on the studies, so we can look at some. Yeah,
I
what
don't
were you
think
gonna
that would
say?
be true for schizophrenia, though. I think schizophrenia affects
Yeah.
everybody equally. I think.
We could look.
Yeah, I'm not that for schizophrenia. I'm not sure.
Schizophrenia demographics. I learned this trick from Monica.
I think it probably affects the same, but what happened is because there's a stigmatization with the mental health conditions, especially in some communities, then
Wow, it says right
I'll
here.
see.
Yeah.
I see that. That's amazing. I
What
would have never
race
guessed that.
is most affected by schizophrenia? Latino Americans, but African Americans continue to reflect being most strongly diagnosed with schizophrenia, 4 times
See?
more likely than Euro Americans. So see, racial disparities. It's
And,
exactly
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
and
right?
3
And then
times more for Latino Americans. So yeah.
Exactly. And then on top of that, there is a lot of stigmatization around mental health conditions. So people don't want to let people outside their home know much about it.
So the way we believe the way this works, if we want more minority participants in clinical research, such as Latin Americans, African Americans, Asian Americans, for any of these conditions, we need more of these clinicians of these races to participate in clinical research. If we can't get that, at least we can get the clinicians treating a vast majority of these patients in certain communities. All right, but we think it works better if you want more African Americans. Guess what? Funny things happen when the PI is African American and treats African American patients, or the nurse practitioner is African American. I mean, they tend to have a lot more in common with their own race, right? So there's a stigma from African Americans from the 40s and it stretched all the way through the 70s. The syphilis experiment from Alabama.
Tuskegee.
And the
Yeah.
same scenario is for the Latin Americans with so many clinical trials that were held there, and people was participating without even knowing.
Yes, exactly.
So,
So they, obviously there's a huge, in the African American community especially, there's a huge skepticism when it comes to clinical research. And I think that really the only way we can get better numbers as far as enrolling is to get more minorities participating in clinical research from the research perspective. So clinicians. Same thing with with Latin Americans, even though they didn't have the same maltreatment as African Americans did it with research studies, but they're underrepresented as well. So that's core to our principle, is getting more clinicians in those communities. and more people of color who are clinicians to participate in research so that we can have better accrual rates. And we've seen, Chris and I have seen that happen with our own sites that we have, with the site networks, with the people in our site networks. I mean, that's the way it works. And the pharma is starting to understand this, and they're starting to invest serious money in this. Because guess what? The FDA, what we just saw with lupus, affecting, what was it, 3 or 4 times more African Americans and Hispanic Americans than whites. So basically, in the studies, if you're getting the majority white participants, the FDA is not even accepting the data anymore from these studies. And so until the research reflects the real world, as far as all the races, the demographics, gender, the FDA said they're not even going to be approving drugs. I mean, this is literally what was told to us, Chris and I, several times by some pharma.
I also think that people participating in clinical trials in different areas, like clinical research coordinators, nurses, or that are part of these minorities, could also help with this, because what happens is when you, like, for example, you explain somebody in their own language what is the research about, and if they have trust, and I think part of the trust is also being of the same community, then that will also improve, as well as educating the population about it. Because, I mean, some people don't have any idea what clinical trials are, or they have the completely wrong idea about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And so here's the first study that I'm looking at for lupus, a study to assess the safety and efficacy of secukinumab. Dr. Al, you know this? Are you familiar?
No, secukinumab.
There you go. In alleviating symptoms of discoid lupus. I can't read because my screen is in the way, but
Lupus erythromatosis.
Okay, there you go. So let's look at how many sites are doing this. They define it here. Chronic inflammatory skin condition may lead to itch, skin. So what, I guess, Dr. Al, what is lupus, just to make it simple for...
Discoid. This is talking about one entity of lupus. Lupus is like an autoimmune condition that can attack multiple parts of the body. This is like one entity of lupus, an autoimmune condition that's related to lupus, can attack the skin and can be in any area of the body, from the extremity to the hair. You see it mainly in the patient in their hair, and they have discoid lupus, and it's diagnosed by biopsy mainly for these patients. And treatment so far, to my knowledge, I'm not a specialist in lupus, but
yeah,
I can get you next time a specialist in lupus, and we can interview him. He's one of my friends.
Okay.
They do for him. Yeah, they do for him an injection, local injection with steroid around this discoid lupus.
Is your friend interested in doing lupus studies?
Yeah, he's doing it with me.
Oh, okay.
We got it.
Good.
So yeah, let's definitely get him on
Mm-hmm.
next week if we can, and we'll discuss that. This is only 16 patients, so if you're a site looking to get this study, you're not going to get it. So let's look for another one. This is how we look for studies too. We look, there's probably better ways to filter everything. I'm not really doing it that way. I should have put industry. Let's do industry, industry sponsored, so that we get rid of all the NIH stuff and all the pilot studies.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
I would just like to correct that statement right there. NIH studies do often run like a sponsored study in which they're looking for numerous sites. So if you're a site looking for studies, don't dismiss NIH.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've negotiated a few of those. I've negotiated a few of those budgets.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. Systemic lupus erythromatosis. Same one as we looked at last time, right?
Oh, I actually have 2 studies for this that I can tell you the names if you want to look at them. those
Okay.
studies. They are looking for sites.
Yeah, this one looks like they want 32 participants,
Yeah,
adult
very small
patients.
study.
Yeah, autoantibody positive,
SLE, as
interventional,
defined with
25 milligram capsule orally of the experimental drug. Uh, primary outcome, incidence of treatment emergent adverse events and SAEs measured up to 12 weeks. And then they're looking at, so this is an early phase study.
yeah.
Clinical diagnosis, adequate. This would be a good study though. Let's see which of the sites. Asia Therapeutics. So they have one in Dallas. That's the site. Asia Therapeutics along with Hangzhou Asia Pharmaceutical Research, probably from China. So this study, look at all the exclusion. Okay, the inclusion is only 6 points. It's pretty standard for lupus. Looks like they want, but the exclusion, they're excluding like everything, right? This would be, I
Because
mean,
as you said, it is an early study, so they don't want to jeopardize the patient. So the
okay,
communication, they want to make sure that it is safe for the patient, even at an early stage, to be administered for the patient.
okay. Let's look at this one then. Let's find another one.
Did you find these studies, Monica?
Yeah, let me show
Here's
you.
one with adults. Let's see if this is bigger. This looks bigger because it looks like Eli Lilly. See Eli Lilly? I could tell from the,
Yeah, that one. I have that one.
okay, this one, they're looking at 280 patients.
Mm-hmm.
So LY, the drug is a potential first-in-class therapeutic addressing underlying immune system imbalance in people with autoimmune conditions and targets interleukin IL-2 receptor in the body by activating these cells. What do you know about this, Dr. Al?
IL-2 is like one of the inflammatory marker that been studied very well. And now if you remember a couple of episodes before, we talked about IL-2 and the COVID and the treatment against it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, interleukin in general. And so that's what it is. It can induce more inflammatory response in the body. So they're trying to find an anti-IL-2 to reduce the inflammation in the body.
Mm-hmm. In order to stimulate proliferation of inhibitory immune cells known as regulatory T cells.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Which can
So
inhibit the.
this one, percentage of participants who achieve a greater or equal 4-point reduction in the systemic lupus erythromat. This is their scale. And then they want secondary outcome. Lupus low disease activity scale. So all the rating scales typical of lupus studies, and then pharmacokinetics, PK concentrations. Inclusion. See, this is a little more simple. Look at the IE criteria is pretty short.
Yep. And exclusion is very short.
Exclusion is if they have severe lupus, have active CNS lupus, have a history of cardiovascular, respiratory, hepatic, gastrointestinal, any unstable illness that in the opinion of the investigator could constitute an unacceptable risk. And so yeah, this would be like a relatively simple study to do. There's 106 sites doing this. They have the phone numbers of those sites. Monica, we can call and network with them. Chelsea Smith should be first on the list to call with the number. First one. Should we tell her it's her lucky day? She's the Willy Wonka golden ticket. But look, there's a lot here, and every state, just about. Well, not every state, but all the big states. Looks like Oklahoma, Texas. So there's a good amount of. See, the thing with when you're trying to get a study like this, you see, the sponsor contact is hidden, and look, they have a bunch of sites across, like it's international too, so they have more sites. And look at Mexico, they have like 6 sites there, Poland, Puerto Rico, Romania.
Nice,
Hey, we
Australia.
got to call some of
Hey,
these people and start
Romania.
speaking Romanian right here. Christina Pop. We're going to give her a call. Florine. Yeah, so look, they have countries all over the world doing this study. If I were trying to get this study, you see, you can't find the study director. That's just the 1-800 number for Eli Lilly. So I would be networking with sites, probably not in California because I'm in California, but I would network with, for example, Connecticut. I probably wouldn't get anybody from Yale. But like small clinics like this, see, in Florida, I would ignore University of Miami, but I would contact New Horizon Research Center and talk to Lazaro Nunez and say, hey, what's up, man? Can we collaborate on getting studies for each other? And this is how you do it. This is networking. I mean, what do you guys have to say about this?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that information is really useful for many things.
Mm-hmm.
Even for the CRC Academy, for the PI Academy, for the CRA Academy.
So
Good to know.
let's find another study.
Good to know, Dan.
And see, I mean, finding the minority participants, it's gonna be the strategies Monica came up with. I mean, first you have to get the clinicians that are in those communities participating in research. So you were mentioning, Monica, in one of our academies, we have a lot of international students. Why is that an advantage, do you think?
Because what happened is, like I was mentioning, when you speak with somebody that has the condition in the same language, is more, I think it creates a rapport faster than when somebody in different language is explaining to you. And then on top of that, they say, well, if this person works in research and he or she is from my community, it should be, it's probably good for my community. Like, why will somebody that is not in my industry, from my community, will be working in something that will be detrimental for us? And then additionally, for example, there are communities for this specific, groups for this specific communities that give support. And you can go participate in the events and stuff, and also the same thing, speaking their same language, and they will understand also the needs of your own community. Like, for example, let's say I don't know, the Latin American Association of Women. Then if I go and give a presentation in Spanish, and on top of that, I'm a woman, it will create that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. I found an extension study here, so we won't look at that. But have you heard of that drug, Dr. Al?
Which one? I was not able to be moving
Oh,
the
sorry.
screen so fast. It's okay.
Baricitinib.
Nope.
Better you than me.
I'm good with names, but when it comes to drug names, I just can't do it. I can't do drug names very well. Belimumab. Pregnancy registry.
I would pronounce the name they gave it for aftermarket. Benelsta.
Oh yeah, people get paid a lot of money to come up with these commercialized names. Benlista.
No. These names, it depends on the group. They classify this medication for group, like benidorm. That means it's an antibody. Okay, MAB, refer for monoclonal antibody, and it depends on where it's coming from. Is it animal? Is it like marine or human or animal antibody? That's how they name it. It's not. They have a specific naming system for these new medication and everything, so it'd be easier to understand.
Yeah. What about tofacitinib? What is this?
This is another an inhibitor.
Oh, okay.
Some kind of inhibitor for. If you click on it, most probably will tell you what type of.
Hey, there you go. we learned from Dr. Al. But yeah, but for the generic names, but I was talking about these commercial names like Benlista. You know, there's people getting paid a lot of money to come up with these names here, like Benlista,
They want something
Seroquel,
attractive,
Opdivo,
something.
Yervoy. But those things don't mean anything, you know. But somebody got paid a lot of money to come up with that name, which has always been very surprising to me.
The explanation for the generic drug name is pretty interesting, though. But
Yeah.
not that I'd be able to tell anything by looking at a generic drug name. I mean,
like
it's interesting what you told
Seroquel.
me, but
Seroquel's quetiapine.
yeah,
What does that mean, though? I don't know what
quetiapine.
Yeah,
It's
quetiapine.
INIP, that means could be an inhibitor. Go down a little bit, please.
Okay.
Dan.
Well, this is the tofacitinib.
Go
But this
here.
is for children, no?
So no, up a little bit here. Yep. Brief summary. So
This is for
pharmacokinetic,
children.
pharmacology, safety, and effectiveness is TCFA. Yeah, that's,
18 to 45 with moderately
Hmm.
severe active SLE. So this is only one site, 20
What's
participants.
what's
20 cases.
erythmatosis? What's erythmatosis? What's that?
This is lupus erythromatosis.
Yeah, what
Is
is
The
it?
that?
redness of the SLE, systemic lupus erythromatosis. The
Yeah, what's
name is,
erythmatosis?
erythro, that means red. Matosis is related to skin. The
Okay.
patient who have red cheeks here.
All right, that's pretty
the lupus
common.
patient. Yes.
That's common in lupus, right? Most lupus,
Yeah.
red cheeks.
Yeah, they call it the butterfly sign. Butterfly sign, which is like
Okay.
you have here two redness, especially after exposure to sun for these patients. They're very sensitive to sun.
Okay.
Here's another one. Well,
Thank
this
you.
is a big one. Obinutuzumab.
I saw
an
Fontana, California on
antibody.
that last one.
This is an antibody. Tuzumab. MAB, the mean antibody medication.
Mm-hmm.
They did not find yet a trade name for it.
And intervention, these are all the drugs. So I guess people are going to be randomized to one of these treatments or a combination.
Prednisone, placebo, methylprednisone.
Yeah, it's a lot. Look at that. Intervention
Yeah.
treatment, phase 3.
They need 250 patients. One,
Yeah,
two,
phase
three,
3
four,
randomized.
5, 6, 7.
Evaluate the safety and efficacy of obinutuzumab in patients with class 3 or 4 lupus nephritis.
But this is only for lupus nephritis.
Yeah, what is this?
This means
The kidneys.
the effect of the lupus, it can cause some damage to the kidney, and that's what they're looking at.
So
The safety of
inclusion,
these medications.
eligibility. Maybe this would be good for the doctor, you know.
Who?
The
Your
one that
friend.
we're going to interview.
Your friend that does lupus studies with you, Dr. Al.
Yeah. I think Dan and Chris, you sent me a couple of studies for lupus. We applied for them. Yeah, because he comes once a week to my office. He sees patient here.
Let's get more.
That's,
It's pretty simple inclusion exclusion criteria, honestly. It's not a lot. And then look, it's sponsored by Hoffman La Roche, not the Hoffman we know, Dr. Al, a different one. Hoffman La
Roche.
Roche. And yeah, Roche, they're huge. And look, they got all these sites. Alabama, Chris for some reason likes Fontana.
I just noticed it.
they have California, Beverly Hills.
Yeah. San
Wallace,
Fran, La
Connecticut,
Jolla, Stanford,
Kaiser.
Kaiser. So Kaiser's doing a lot of research now, by the way.
Yeah.
Yale,
Yeah, but
Emory. This looks like a lot of academic sites mixed with a few private, like Nephrology Research of Michigan, Veteran Affairs, a lot of like academic / institutional stuff, and a few small sites, Premier Health, for example. I don't think they're small, but like private sites. This would be good to try to get for if you're looking for a study, and they also do international now. I mean, look how many. Monica, you're from Colombia. Let's see. Colombia is well represented too.
Wow.
They get four sites there. You got to be making.
Wow.
One was withdrawn, so we don't want to talk to them. We waste our time. But these ones, we can probably figure out how to get this study for Dr. Al's friend if we were to do this. If we wanted to, hypothetically.
This is
do
a
this.
light lily? This is the one from a light lily?
Hoffman Roche.
Oh, okay. I have some contacts in that pharmaceutical company.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so let me the study, Monica. Please.
Yeah, let's do it. So
I
that's
sent it
basically-
already. I sent it to Claire.
So I'll
Good.
talk to Claire.
Claire's being busy. So that's basically how we analyze studies, guys. We look at the inclusion, exclusion, we look at how many sites are participating, and then we try to get an educated clinician on to discuss the drug and what they think. Is it safe? Really, the first thing I care about is if I'm doing it at my site is it safe? After that, we look at the complexity of the IE criteria. How many sites are participating? Do I have a chance? And then start networking with them. But let's end this with improving patient outcomes from the communities in clinical research as far as minority participation and diversity in studies. So how do we do this with let's take lupus for example. I mean, how do we get more minorities to participate in lupus studies?
I will use those demographics to obviously try to target them directly and find where this community is concentrated more and how to get to them. That's how we, have developed our marketing strategies by each study. And also, like I was saying, if in a site there is somebody that speaks the same language, or if it's somebody of that specific community, use them to communicate with these organizations.
Chris,
Even
what
in
do you think?
Facebook.
Or
Go ahead,
Dr.
Dr.
Al?
Al.
Dr. Al, what do you think?
No. I just want to, and I think the minority, they don't participate because the way that the community in general, they look at them, okay, because they're completely diverse and they're excluded from a lot of things according to their thinking, and that's why you can find a lot of participants. And when you're gonna go and approach them as a physician who is not from that ethnic or group, they will be really suspicious about it. I saw it here in my clinic when I approached somebody. Okay, you're gonna make me your guinea pig or do something like this and like this. So you need to be very careful in how to approach it and how to talk to these patient. Number one. Number two, as Monica said, the more the physician is from the same ethnic group, it's easier to participate and recruit.
I would agree 100%.
Yep. And that's what I see when I have somebody who's Spanish talking to them and like this, they're easier to recruit than somebody, me, talking to them with my accent and everything.
I think it's true. I think it's true across the board. I think it's true across the board. I mean, Dr. Al, you're Middle Eastern, right? So do you have, what does the Middle Eastern community think about clinical research in the United States? And have you come across this
Actually, I
issue?
don't have a lot of Middle Eastern patients, actually. In my area here in Los Angeles, most of my patients are white, African-American, or Spanish. But I do not have, maybe I have one or two Middle Eastern patients that really I did not talk to them even about a clinical trial because there is no available trials for them.
So outside of your patient demographics, just in general, do you know the culture of Middle Eastern people in participating in research?
I think they would like to participate in the medical research, but only the younger generation, not the older generation.
Why do you think that's the case?
It's the same as any other ethnic group, because the older generation still have the impression that somebody trying to control them, somebody trying to do
suspicious
stuff. Suspicious, exactly. so they don't like to do it.
I think that's
Skeptical.
why it's so important to educate the population in general about clinical trials,
Have you ever,
because people have a wrong idea.
Dr. Al, have you ever participated as a subject in a study?
As a subject in the study. No,
Would you?
no.
Yeah.
No,
How about you,
no,
Dan?
it depends on what the
How
study.
about you, Dan?
Yeah, I have. I did a virtual trial on
Okay,
my
not a
iPhone.
virtual, an actual study where you have to go in physically.
No, but my wife did, and I was all for it.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was for like a skin thing. The UC Irvine was doing an experimental test on a skin, not a skin tag, but it's something like a discoloration of a part of the skin. So they were trying a different kind of treatment on it, and it was free. And she said it was good. I mean, it didn't really work, but they're still to this day following up, calling her to come in to do a safety
Interesting.
follow-up. Yeah.
How about you, Monica?
I have for allergies.
Allergies? Did it work?
Yeah, remember how
Yeah, I
allergic
remember
I
you.
was?
Yeah. So you're taking this drug now?
Yeah. No, I took it for the period of the study, and for some reason I don't have any more allergy. So it worked.
Yeah,
I think.
now that you bring that up, I do recall you sneezing a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't recall any time in the last year you sneezing.
Yeah, she doesn't really sneeze anymore. That's true.
Yep. And then I've participated too in studies. So
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Talk about your
What kind?
experiences.
well, okay, so not directly, but I was a single parent for quite some time in my younger years, and I put both my children in the study. So I'm a type 1 diabetic, and there was a study on whether or not they could genetically predict whether my children would have diabetes, type 1 diabetes. So I put them in that
Oh.
study.
That's
Interesting.
great.
So we all have some experience with it.
Yep.
This is not an easy issue. I mean, it's, like Dr. Al, Chris, and Monica and myself all seem to say the same thing. We need more clinicians of different races participating in research. Like if you want more African Americans in your studies, get more African Americans, PIs, or at least sub-Is
Exactly.
participating. Same thing with Latin or Asian, no matter what, Middle Eastern.
Excellent. This is a big point, is like to get a PI wants to participate and wants their patient to participate and benefit from the clinical trial and the study that comes out.
Now, a physician like you, Dr. Al, so you've been in your community practicing for, I don't know, I mean, a long time, right? In your community.
Mm-hmm.
So patients have already gotten to trust you now over the years. Are you able to recruit more minorities because you've established a trust in the community?
And my patient, my patient, yeah, I recruit my patient like any ethnic group. Okay, I've been treating them for a while, and they trust me, and like this, like Spanish, African American, or white, they trust me, and I've been recruiting them for different type of oncology clinical trial.
I would also think it has something to do with bedside manner as well, because I'm sure you have a great bedside manner. You're very personable and friendly, but somebody who's more just kind of cold and distant as a physician, I think is going to have a much harder time recruiting anybody, regardless of ethnic background, for a research trial.
Yeah, I think that goes on all the positions or careers in research.
Mm-hmm.
That when, like Dan was mentioning the other day, soft skills,
Yep.
very important.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, soft skills. Yeah, that's very important. I mean, for sure. So that's good, guys. Thank you for tackling such a tough topic. It's not going to be the last. Maybe it's the first. I have a feeling, Chris and I have a feeling, we're going to be doing a lot of these.
Yes, we will.
So stay tuned, guys.
Hopefully.
Buckle up. It's going to be a wild but exciting ride. And thank you, Dr. Al. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Monica.
Thank
And
you,
we'll
guys.
catch you guys all later on.
Thank you, Dan.